Thank you, Concola. Minister, in your own words, it is time for the rural to have an input into the climate action change. It is time for the government to have the representation on Cabinet that represents the rural living in Ireland, which is 37%. It is time that the people of Ireland know the truth, that what you want to achieve, and that you quoted yourself on national television in October 2019, that in your view 30 cars is adequate for 3,000 families that live in towns and villages and in rural areas in Ireland, and that we can cycle and we can walk down to a collection point to collect cars. That is your own words from 2019. It is time for the $4.5 billion that you're spending in Dublin in infrastructure, that the people that have no other choice in Ireland, through fuel taxation, that you're spending their money for infrastructure in Dublin. There is 25 other counties that, if you spent the $4.5 billion, would improve the infrastructure, which would reduce the emissions in Ireland. And it is time that people stand up and in our towns and villages that have moved from our towns and villages to Dublin and to relocated to other parts of the country, to stand up for the culture and the heritage from where they came from. Ireland generates only 1/10 of 1% of the global carbon dioxide emissions. According to the World Trading data, Asia accounts for 54% of the global carbon dioxide emissions and going upwards. According to the EPA, agriculture in Ireland is the biggest contributor of emissions at 34%. Methane amounts for 63% of the agriculture emissions, and the solution from government is to cut the herd by 51% by 2030. Very simple solution. This could amount to 3.4 million cattle being extracted from the total herd. How can any minister of government think that this is the right thing to do? Is the agricultural community happy with this solution? I think not. The IFA President, Tim Culhan, is looking for methane to be treated differently, as they have done in New Zealand. Following on, the ICMSA and the ICSA are very concerned at the level of reduction that is demanded from agriculture. I spoke to Thomas Duffy, the outgoing president of MACRA, and he is calling for support for the large and small farmers to encourage this group to get involved in biodigesters. I am encouraging each of the farming groups and the agricultural entrepreneurs to get involved in the new consultation process, which will open for the next 8 weeks, and put the point forward to the Minister and let them know how they feel over the next 10-year strategy. I am also saying to these farmers not to be fooled, that there will be a case made for methane emissions. It is not in the bill. It has not been treated separately, even though we have asked for this. There are no sectorial exemptions in this bill. The solution is in the problem. We invest in renewable plants. The agricultural community are involved in the extraction of methane from their slurry pits, and they can use this as a replacement fossil fuel and gas and heating. The gas is stored in a biodigester and, after processing, sold to the national grid. Yes, I know it takes time and money, but farmers need to be supported to be put in place and not filled up with empty promises. This is not new and has brought in major investors from Northern Ireland, Germany and other countries. There are several of these examples of this type and innovation happening around this country, and certainly should be welcomed and supported in a real and meaningful way to cut out carbon emissions. We are setting records, all right. The government won't be happy until we confirm Ireland to be the dearest place to heat a home. Currently, customers are looking at a hike of €200 in a fill of oil, and the price of a bag of coal to increase by €8. Our electricity is going up year on year. If this climate action bill is enacted, Ireland will spend billions of euros only to find out that the climate change will get worse over the same period. For instance, did you know that a recent study at Oxford University has proved again that farmed fish will produce more methane gas than cows? I would like to go back to the former Minister of Fine Gael, Simon Coveney, who told the farmers of Ireland, when he was Minister for Agriculture, to double their herd. And now you are promoting that fish farms be increased by 30%, and they are higher emissions on methane. Here are some other factors to be looked at which can support the reduction of emissions. For instance, supporting the suckler herd and reducing the finishing age of animals, which could be brought down. One of the easiest solutions would be to encouragement of sexed semen where beef bull calves were to be born and not produce bulls. We need the supports that we are put in place that a low-emission slurry spreading. It is not just all about agriculture. Transport in the private sector has little investment, impact in rural areas. We are still fighting for bus links and work intercity bus and train services. I often get the impression from urban dwellers that rural people go to work by car just for fun. A reality check, Minister. There is no other way of going to work, school or college. Why are our third-level colleges, car parks, full? Lack of infrastructure. Enterprise in rural areas needs to be encouraged so that jobs are localised, thus keeping down transport emissions. Again, Minister, lack of infrastructure. I am saying now that I and my colleagues of the Rural Independent Group will stand up for rural Ireland and the family farms with a climate action bill. We want food safety for ourselves and our children, but we also need a sustainable living for our family and farms. But we will challenge the government and rigorously scrutinise this and debate every line of this bill to protect the interest of every rural family in Ireland. The bill is riddled with hypocrisy and double-speak. This government have committed to make Ireland the first in the world to be carbon-free by 2030. This is utter spin. The Rural Independent Group are now asking for the people all over Ireland, rural and urban, to lobby your TDs to protect our culture, our heritage and our livelihoods by supporting us in amending this climate action bill, law carbon development bill. People of Ireland, and whether you're city, town, village or rural areas, this bill is being produced by people that are city-based. This bill is being produced by people that do not understand farming, they do not understand rural living. And a perfect example is what I pointed out at the very start. And the Minister started, it is time. It is time that you came to rural Ireland and moved in for a week. They had it before with Living with Lucy. You would have a different concept when you have to get up in the morning and we'll ask you to cycle down and collect your car. And when you get down there, it's not there because somebody else has it gone. That is your mentality because you know no better. You live in a city where you can walk out your front door and get a taxi. You can walk to a shop and in 2 minutes of where you are. You can get any transport you like within the city in minutes. You can cycle your bike in a cycle lane. That's because you don't understand rural living. And it is a failure of you and the previous governments for the lack of infrastructure that could be put in place so all the people in rural Ireland could help bring down emissions, but we have to burn fuel to get to work because of the failure of this government and the previous governments for lacking infrastructure in rural Ireland. That is a reality check, Minister, and I think you should listen to us.
Thank you very much, Deputy O'Donoghue. I'd say Lucy Kennedy would have maybe too much sense to want to live with any of us.